Right,
great, yeah, great, we're away. She's like, great, okay, brilliant. Guys, my name's Jack. I am not from Bath. I live in Bristol at the moment. I used to work for a charity called Christians in Sport, which I think you're going to hear a little bit more about later. Exciting stuff. They're a great organisation to get part of if you play sport and you're a Christian at uni here at Bath. And tonight, what we're going to be looking at, kind of tonight, but also next week, is how to share your faith with people who don't yet know Jesus. Now, when I say that, I'm sure people are a bit like, oh gosh, here we go. This is a really hard thing to do. This is a really difficult thing. And it is, it's hard, isn't it? To share your faith with people who don't know Jesus. They might think you're weird. You know, you might be scared of the rejection that you might face when you maybe open your mouth to speak of Jesus. You might think, well, I just never get an opportunity to do that. And then maybe when you do get an opportunity, like what comes out of your mouth is just like verbal diarrhea. You're like, what on earth, like, is that all about? What did I just say in that moment? I have one friend of mine who he got an opportunity to speak of his faith to one of his mates. And what came out of his mouth was just atrocious. He was like, his friend was like, so tell me about your Christian faith. I know you're a Christian. Tell me about your faith. And he said, well, basically it's like being covered with the blood of the lamb. And needless to say, his friend obviously wasn't very attracted to the idea. So what we're going to be looking at over the next 2 weeks, we're just going to be kind of equipping you as a CU, as Christians on campus, to kind of be equipped with a framework, and the framework is called 2 Ways to Live. There's just a really easy way for you to explain the Christian faith, and it's to practically equip you to do that. And so I guess hopefully off the back of this tonight and then next week, you'll be equipped to then go and maybe speak to your flatmates who you've just moved in with. Maybe to go and speak to your coursemates who you've been sitting next to for the last 3 years. To maybe speak to your teammates in your sport about the good news that you have in the gospel of Jesus. And so tonight, what I'm going to be doing is kind of introducing us to that framework, 2 Ways to Live. And the guys have asked me to do that through kind of like an evangelistic talk, if you like, through a talk about the gospel, which has this framework at the core of it. So, as I said, I used to work for a charity called Christians in Sport, but when I was a little bit younger, I'm going to kick off with a story. I wasn't much of a fan of sport. I was, I say, a little bit bigger, significantly rounder when I was younger. Like, weight was an issue. I loved food, and as I said, I wasn't overly keen on sport. Probably explains why my main sport was golf, actually. But at least physically exerting sport, whatever fun. Is it a sport? Who knows? Up for debate. And one time, I was in London with my family, and this love for food was a real downfall. Like a real downfall. I was 10, and I got lost twice in London, all as a result of my belly and my stomach, right? First time, let me explain, London Eye. Who has ever walked past like a fresh waffle stand? You know, you get those stands where they're making fresh waffles? Yeah, a few, I can tell people who know anything, like they're just like, oh yeah. Right? It's so good, right? The smell, oh mate, it's to die for. So we were walking past, 10-year-old me, big belly. We were there by the London Eye, and I just stopped. I just looked at this bloke, pouring some Nutella in like 5 kilo jars. Oh, come on. And so I just stopped, I was just daydreaming, just looking. Stopped in the middle of the street, just looking at this thing. And about 20 seconds later, maybe 10, I came to my senses, came out kind of my food coma, that was it, or whatever. And my parents and my family friends who we were with, were gone. Flip. Time number one. I found them, I knew they were getting to the London Eye. It took me about 5 minutes to find them. 10-year-old me in a big city. Then that evening, so it wasn't even twice in a holiday, it was twice in one day. That evening, we were going out for dinner. We were at a restaurant, and next door to the restaurant that we were going to was a Burger King. And so again, we were kind of stood, like, you had to kind of go down some steps to go to this restaurant, whereas the Burger King was kind of up on the high street. We were stood, and we were looking in this restaurant, my parents and the family friends were having a discussion. And again, my eyes were kind of just fixed on the Burger King, particularly focusing in on the people in the window who had their whoppers, tucking in. And again, I think I just conked out for like 20 seconds. Like, I was, my eyes were like, now on this. And again, I kind of came to my senses, and my parents, my family friends, were gone. I was off there. Okay, chat, come on. And so what I did, I decided, again, I wasn't really paying attention to what they were talking about. I didn't know they'd gone into the restaurant. So I went into this shopping centre that was just nearby, in the hope that they'd gone that way. And I was lost. I was a little country boy in a big city, terrified, without my parents or anything like that. And I was accosted, or approached, obviously I looked terrified, by a Scottish lady. Is anyone Scottish in the room? Okay, 1, 2, okay. Well, I was going to do a Scottish accent, but I don't want to offend anyone. Basically, this woman, she actually looked like a bit of a witch. She came over to me. She came over to me and was like, "Are you lost, little lad? Are you lost?" At that point, I was like, "I'm aware." It was awful. I was alone, I was scared, and I was really, really lost. We're going to come back to that story slightly later on. But I wonder if you've ever been lost. I wonder if you've ever been lost. Maybe physically, like me, maybe in the supermarket, you're in R3 and your mum, again, maybe you're looking at a toy or something when you're younger and your mum goes to R4 to get some celery in the vegetable aisle. But maybe, have you been lost emotionally? Or maybe you've been lost spiritually? Anyone felt that? Maybe some of us have. Maybe some of us know what that feels like. But I imagine most of us maybe haven't quite felt that. So imagine, for example, the things that we hold dear in our lives. Imagine that they were taken from us. Just imagine it. The things that we find security in. Imagine they were taken from us. Our family, our relationship with that guy or that girl, that dream job, maybe that placement that we've got coming up next year, maybe our sport. Imagine if that was taken from us. We'd feel pretty lost, wouldn't we? And being lost and rescued are pretty major themes in the Bible. And Jesus himself talks loads about it. In one of the accounts of Jesus' life, for example, Jesus himself says, "For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." And to give some context to that quote, Jesus says that after a story in the Bible where somebody who was lost has now become found. Picture the scene. Crowds of people, hordes of them. Imagine, what's the centre by the library called? What's that place called? Is that the parade? That bit there? Just by the library. Imagine that, the crossover between lectures are like, I don't know when you guys finish it, like 5 past or 5 past 8 or whatever. Imagine the crossover, the hustle, the bustle, loads of people rammed in. And imagine it, these people, loads of them, they've heard that Jesus is coming. It's like a celebrity. Everyone wants to see Jesus. He's been doing some amazing things. He's been making amazing claims about himself. He's been doing some amazing miracles. And people wanted to see it. And included in that crowd is a small man named Zacchaeus, who was the chief tax collector of the area. Now, chief tax collectors, they were not liked. They were like the outcasts. They were the worst of the worst. They used to take money off their own people and then keep some for themselves. They were just not liked at all. But this man, Zacchaeus, he was so desperate. He was so desperate to see Jesus that he climbed up a tree in order to see him. So the crowd, they're argy-bargy, there's a lot going on, and Jesus comes, and the crowd, argy-bargy as I said, but Jesus does something really interesting. Instead of stopping, instead of acknowledging the crowd, what Jesus does is he walks straight up to the tree where Zacchaeus is. Straight through the crowd, straight up to it, like I'm getting up to the sweet house, straight up to it, and he stops at the base of the tree. And he looks up, and sees a small little man clambering in some trees. And he says, "Zacchaeus, I want to come to tea with you." He calls him down and invites himself over for food. And the crowd, they're wondering. They're like, this is Jesus, who has done some pretty amazing things in his life. Some pretty class stuff. He is a good bloke. Probably sent by God. Why on earth is he going for dinner with Zacchaeus? Zacchaeus, the man who cheats people out of their money. The man who's corrupt. Why is Jesus going to tea with a man like that? And then the scene shifts to Zacchaeus' house, and suddenly we see this massive transformation. in Zacchaeus' life. Formerly, a man who cheated the poor at their money, who stole from others so that he could gain. And what does he do? At the end of dinner, after having dinner with this man Jesus, he stands up and he makes this big announcement. He says, I'm going to give back to all the people that I've wronged. He says he's going to repay them all like 4 times what he's stolen from them. And he says he is sorry for the bad that he has done. It doesn't take a genius, does it, to work out that something pretty amazing is happening at dinner. And again, we get an insight as to what happened when Jesus then says this amazing quote at the end of it, the bit we're looking at. Today, salvation has come to this house, for the Son of Man has come to seek and save the lost. Any football fans in the room? Yeah, big up. 3 football fans? No. Right, a few more. Yeah, like that. A few more. Who's your team? Arsenal. Cool. I'm a Man United. No, I'm not. I'm a Plymouth Argyle fan, but my Premier League team. I needed a bit of joy in my life, so yeah, big thing in football at the moment, isn't it? Sorry, I've just completely let out at you in front of everyone. Arsenal, they're okay. A big thing in football at the moment, it's been like this for the last 10 years. A big thing at the moment is the kind of constant cycle of new managers, isn't it? You see it particularly with clubs that are really struggling, like at the bottom of the league. Arsenal slightly different, they've gone through 2 managers in like 20 years. You see it, loads of cycles of managers. Old managers out, not getting up, new managers in. And often when a new manager comes in, it would have been the same with Unai Emery when he came into Arsenal, he would have had a press conference. And the press would have said to him, what are your plans for this club? What do you want to achieve? What are you here to do? And they'll often say, I'm here to win. I'm here to take Arsenal back to where they belong, at the top of the league. I'm not getting too well at the moment. Sorry. Man United, Europa League football is terrible. It's awful, isn't it? I want to win. I want to triumph. I want to compete. And if you like, in this moment, the quote that we see in our story, Jesus' quote, is kind of his "What are you here to do?" statement. He says, "I'm here to seek and save the lost." And as you think back to that story of Zacchaeus, that's exactly what happened, isn't it? Jesus sought him out. Jesus was deliberate in going right after Zacchaeus. And people were shocked. People were like, what on earth is Jesus, this good bloke, going after this wretched, awful bloke who we hate? And I'm sure we can think of some pretty bad blokes, can't we? Hitler, Jimmy Savile, Kim Jong-un, Boris Johnson, depending on your political affiliation. Sorry if there are any members of the Conservative Party. No, it's fine. I knew that would get that reaction. It's why I'm literally nothing against the Conservatives. We'll look at them. No, it's hey. We'll look at those people and we'll think, you know what? They're not living as they should. We'll look at them and we'll think they're not living as they should. They're lost. Do you know what I mean? They're lost. And the word lost, I think, is really interesting there. Is because I guess it implies that they've strayed from what is right. They're not on the kind of right path. They're not living as they should be. But as we look at those other people, Boris Johnson maybe, but Kim Jong-un, Hitler, we can so easily miss how we do it in our own lives as well. Think of the way that, small way, think of the way that we might lie to cover our backs in certain situations. Think of the way on a Wednesday night, just last night. Think of the way that we might, lust after that guy or that girl who's dancing in front of us, and we're out with the boys, we're out with the girls, after Bucks Wednesday. And I hold my hand up, I've definitely done that. When Jesus says he came to seek and save the lost, he wasn't just talking about the really, really bad people that we can think of. He's talking about everyone. He's talking about everyone. In Jesus' eyes, we, the whole room, the whole of campus, we are all lost. Jesus was God's perfect Son. And his perfection, if you like, was that right path that we should be living on. But the reality is, time and time again, we veer from it, don't we? Time and time again, we stray. And we too are lost. Now, I'm in no way comparing us to Jimmy Savile, Kim Jong-un. But I'm saying that we all fall short of God's perfect standard. And so cast your mind back to what I said right at the beginning about the purpose of our time tonight and then going on next week. We've got another kind of follow-on session next week. Behind me, you'll see, if you like, the first half of that gospel framework that we're just looking through tonight. If you like, the story of what we've just unpacked right there is here. That, okay, God created the world. Genesis, God created the world and it was good. You see the crown? Crown's on God. God was king. He was ruler. And we get that picture of a perfect relationship between God and humanity. Adam and Eve, God. Get the intimacy there. You see it in the Bible. Kind of imagine it. As they walked in the Garden of Eden, they cracked a joke or two. It's a great relationship. But then, we turned our back on God. We thought, you know what, God? You see it? You're not king. You don't rule over me. I'm going to rule my own life. Thank you. Hey, thanks for creating me. Thanks for the good things that you've given me. But I'm going to turn my back on you. I'm king now. And if we reject God, then there's punishment for that. It's like if we're in a relationship with someone and we turn our back on them, we say, you know what, no thank you. Well, we're no longer in a relationship with them. The relationship is over, isn't it? And that leaves us away from God, in a place where He is in, a place the Bible calls hell. And that is all of us. We are all lost because of our sin and our rejection of God. And that probably doesn't sit right with a lot of people here, right? That probably doesn't sit right with us. Lost? Me? I'm a good player, right? Me? I'm a good girl. Me? No. I've got a good grad talking about. I'm doing well in my degree. Hey, I'm in the first team. I am doing really well. I'm a good player. I'm a good girl. I'm popular. But before the perfect God of the universe, we are all lost. And it's a bleak reality, isn't it? That's a bleak, bleak reality. But think back to what Jesus is kind of, what are you here to do statement. To seek and save the lost. You see, Jesus' life was pretty short-lived. At 33, he was crucified. And in dying a horrific death on the cross, he took on himself all the bad things that we've ever done. And he rose from the dead. So he died on the cross, he took on those things, and then he rose from the dead 3 days later to prove that he was God, and that he dealt with them. And therefore, if you like, we're left without those things. He's taken on himself all the bad that we've done. And we're left perfect. We're left clean, perfect in the eyes of God. And because we're made perfect, we can enter into that relationship with God and enjoy being with him in heaven forever. Now that invitation is for everyone. It's a kind of broad invitation, but it's also a deeply personal invitation for you. Do you remember how Jesus, out of all the crowd, right, sought Zacchaeus out? He was like, you went up to the tree, saw that little man in the tree, in the branches. He went after him, and it's the same with us. He's actively seeking you out because he loves you and he wants to be in relationship with you. I told you we were going to come back to that story, didn't we? Didn't I, with the Scottish lady? Sorry, by the way. Sorry. So I'm 10. I'm accosted by this scary Scottish lady. And the reality of my situation is hitting me, right? I'm lost. I'm 10 years old. I've been stopped by a witch in the middle of a shopping centre. And at that point, I'm terrified. I'm like, oh my word, it can't get any worse than this. And at that point, I feel a hand on my shoulder. And I hear a familiar voice say, thank goodness that I found you. I've been looking everywhere for you. And I look round, my dad's mate, Phil, who's on holiday with us, has found me. We're lost, all of us. But Jesus makes a way for us to enter back into a relationship with God. And it's like he's putting his hand on our shoulder and saying, thank goodness I found you. I've been looking everywhere for you. I even died for you so that I could find you. But imagine just for a second, Phil, my dad's mate, good play. Imagine that I didn't go back to the restaurant with imagine that I decided to stay with scary Scottish ladies. It would be barbaric, wouldn't it? Like, it would be, like, ridiculous. The right response is to go with it. And in terms of our framework, we'll get the next three out. That's, if you like, is kind of what we've just been through. And in terms of our framework, that's the story of our salvation. That Jesus would come to die for us, which leaves us with this choice. Do we accept or do we reject that invitation? The right response to that invitation is to accept what Jesus has done for us, to stop living for ourselves and instead to follow and live for him. That's how Zacchaeus responds. So how will you respond? How will you respond? Jesus came to seek and save the lost. And he came to seek and save you. How will you respond? Now, I'm aware that this is a training night, and this is here to kind of equip you, and if you like, just give you an overview of this 2 ways to live framework that we want to go through. But I'm also so aware it's freshers, and lots of people will be here maybe for the first, second time, maybe be here and actually not know this for themselves. Maybe you're here and you aren't a Christian. Maybe your Christian flatmate who you met 2 weeks ago has dragged you along. Maybe. And if you are here and you don't know this to be true for yourself, please can I encourage you to make that right response, to accept what Jesus has done for you, to enter into a loving relationship with the God of the universe who loves you to bits, loves you so much that he would send his son to die for you. If you're here and you've not accepted that and you want to, please come and chat to me at the end, or chat to the person who brought you. They would be delighted to chat that through with you. So, there you have it. 2 ways to live, 6 windows, a gospel framework. And you might be thinking, flip, okay, that was actually a lot more confusing than I anticipated. But it's actually really simple. Let me just run it through with you, just really quickly. So you see it, don't you? God made the world. He was king. Humanity, he made humanity, but actually humans, us, we turned our back on God. We said, you know what, God? I'm fed up with you being king. I'm going to rule my own life. And that's what the Bible calls sin. Good way to remember sin. Sin is a small word with I in the middle. It's all about me. It's all about me. We rejected God. And because we rejected the God of the universe, the God of life, there's death. We're no longer in that relationship with him. Without him, we are destined, if you like, for hell. But God loved us so much. Look at that bottom left one. He loved us so much that he sent his only son, Jesus, to come and die for us. To take on himself our sin. To take on himself our rejection. And he rose from the dead, proving that he defeated it. And that leaves us with a choice. Do we accept or reject what Jesus has done for us and enter into that relationship? Or do we not? Do we go it alone? Do this thing called life without the God who made us? And face eternity without him? The whole purpose of this is to equip you. This week, please don't take this week as kind of a standalone thing. The whole purpose of this week and next week, where my friend Amy is going to come. She was at Bath. When was she at Bath? She graduated a year ago. So she's coming back and she's going to be looking kind of at this in more detail, very much more hands-on, practical, as to how we can handle this, how we can share this, how we can speak this in conversation. This is, if you like, just to set that up, just to present it tonight. But what I'd love you to do is to think, and it's a challenge really. The challenge is, who will you tell? The challenge is, who will you tell? After next week, when you're kind of more and hopefully fully equipped to take this framework and share it with people, who will you tell? Who would you love to know this? Who would you love to share this with in a conversation? Your flatmates? Teammates? Your course mates? Who you've maybe sat next to or socialised with for the last 2 years, who you've never opened up about the Christian faith to? Who do you want to tell? So what I'd love you to do now is just with the people next to you, maybe just for a moment on your own, is just to have a little think, have a pray, and think, actually, gosh, who do I want to share this with? Who do what I'd love you to do, we'll have 30 seconds. I'm sure hopefully a few names, a few faces popping up. For me, the couple of guys that I work with at the moment, for Henry, for Berry, I'd love for those boys to know the gospel. I'd love to have an opportunity to speak this truth to them. So what I'd love you to do, we'll just go 30 seconds on your own, have a think, sure you've got some names, sure you've got some faces. And what I'd love you to do with the people next to you, it doesn't matter if you haven't spoken to them already. If you're sat on the end of a row and you haven't spoken to the people next to you, sack it out, have a word. Speak to them. Why don't you share the names of the people that you want to share this with? And then my little challenge to you would be, alright, say a few prayers. Pray that God will give you the opportunity to do it. And pray that God would give you the words off the back of tonight, particularly off the back of next week. Please come back next week, because it will all make sense and it will be a much fuller picture. So that's what we're going to do. So 30 seconds on your own, think of a few names, and then share them with the person next to you. And then we're just going to spend a few moments praying, so just pray in your prayers for those people, for opportunities and then the words to say. And then I'll wrap this up with a prayer, and then I'll hand back over to the guy tasting. So alright, for 30 seconds, in fact 15 seconds, then it's not awkward. 15 seconds on your own, and then we'll get praying. Exciting, isn't it? Think of the names, the faces, the people that you would love to know this for themselves. Let me encourage you, please do take this away. Do you grab a picture of it? It's online. It's called 2 Ways to Live. We'll leave it up actually as we're talking. It might be a bit imposing, a bit weird, but we'll leave it up if you want to grab a picture of it. Let me pray, and then we'll hand back over to these guys who will close. Let me pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for your gospel. Father, that even though we have rejected you time and time again, Lord, that you love us. You love us so much that you would send your only Son, Jesus, to come to die for us, to take on himself our mess. Lord, we just pray that we, as your people, if we are trusting in you, Lord, we would take this and we would be encouraged to go and share this with the people who you've put us around. Lord, we pray for boldness for those conversations. Lord, we pray for those names that we've committed to you. Lord, those faces that we've committed to you. Father, we pray that those people would hear your gospel, Lord, and would respond. Father, and Lord, pray for anyone here who hasn't yet put their trust in you. Lord, that tonight they would do that. They would see just the enormity of their problem, that they are lost without you. But Lord, we'd see how incredible and how even bigger your grace is, Lord, that you would send your Son Jesus to die for them. So Lord, thanks so much for tonight. Be with us, we pray. Amen. Again, last thing, if tonight you're like, you know what, I want to accept that, please come and chat to me again, or just chat to the person who brought you. Be great just to chat that through. Thank you so much.
No one really watched them, but we put them up on the YouTube
great.
page.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, you got a YouTube page, have you?
Yeah.
Who was it the boy up there with the... Who records it? Where do you record it from?
I'm recording on my phone right now, so yeah.
You still recording it?
Yeah. I'll cut it out.
Hello, YouTube.
I'll cut it out.